Ahoy there, Captain Benzie here, coming at you with a very exciting video for Eve Echoes. Today I stumbled across a Chinese website that is running an article all about the exclusive to Eve Echoes Yang ship designs. My goodness, these things look amazing and I cannot wait to showcase them to you. Before I do, however, I'm hoping I can borrow your time for literally just 2 minutes so that you guys can really help me out. Now, I'm sure you're aware by now that all of my content is made entirely on my Razer Phone 2. Everything you've seen me do on this channel is done entirely on it. Recording, doing the voiceovers, editing, uploading, the whole caboose. Now, I'm not at all in any way sponsored by anyone, but I have found an opportunity just to help you guys out and perhaps get a bit of help back in return. Now, when I've done some of these videos where I'm reading through articles and websites, you'll see that I've used a browser called Brave. It's this orange lion icon you can see here in the top right. Now, Brave is a privacy-first browser, whereas like a lot of browsers that you use, if you go into private mode, for example, it just stops other people on your device seeing like what you've been looking at. Brave actually routes that through Tor, so it hides your location and everything from the suppliers. It's got brilliant ad blocking. It's got some great ways to support fellow content creators like myself, including the ability to tip directly through the browser itself, using money that you actually earn by not watching ads, which is really quite a cool system. Now, I've got a referral link. You can download this on PC and on mobile. If you use the referral link on screen now and then minorly use the browser, sort of casually use it over the next month or so, I do actually get a kickback. I'm sure you guys will thoroughly enjoy a new lightweight browser that is heavy on its privacy functions, and it would help me out a lot as well. So please do click that link and give it a go. Anyway, that's said and done. Let's jump into the video and have a look at some really cool Yang ships. Now, this website is called Weixin.qq. I cannot read Chinese, so I cannot tell you what any of this says. Maybe I'll find someone who can translate all of this for me, and then we can actually do another video going over all these details. I just want to talk about the images and what they all mean. So as we scroll down, the first image we come across here is of a load of Oriental designs. Now, we know that the Yang are of a very Oriental origin, and they are being used by NetEase as a way to draw in more Asian players, which I think is a really cool way of doing it. They're not a unique, they're not a playable empire. They are just faction ships, kind of like Mordu's Legion, Sanchez Nation, Angel Cartel, that kind of thing. But what we see here is that, as they said, it's all going to be based on sort of Oriental designs, and you can see some cool like pottery designing here, and like the tower on the left, sort of architecture is the word I'm looking for there. As we scroll down here, we start to see some of these ships. Now, this to me looks like that's going to be at least a cruiser size, if not larger. I mean, I suppose that could be similar to the Vigil or something. There is a destroyer or frigate, but to me that looks more cruiser sized, and you can see here that it's all based around like a pottery kind of aesthetic that's going on there on the left hand side. I love the ridges and that. These are some really unusual ship designs. I'll be interested to see how those actually look once we get them into space. You can see here some of the large ones. These could be transports. Less battleships, more like transports, especially this one in the bottom sort of middle here, and the obelisk above it. Very rigid shapes there, again very much based on, you can see there's a green chest in the image above here, very much based upon those. As we come down a bit further, we start to see what is definitely more a battleship, and this actually looks very reminiscent of the one that we saw in the reveal trailer, in the Yang trailer, the one that had the pagoda on the back and decloaked itself. You can see there's some really nice sort of sloping sides to it that are very reminiscent of sort of Asiatic pagoda designs. If you've ever been to, like, say, Asakusa or any of the temple cities, that kind of thing, you'll see that that's very reminiscent of a lot of the temples and just that typical pagoda sloping sides. And I really like that aesthetic. I do like the fact that the front is sort of arrow-shaped as well. It's got that kind of arrowhead to it. It's a very sleek design, and it looks really cool. I like the fact that as well, if you're looking in the middle, there appear to almost be buildings actually in that central gap, and we get to more of that later, because boy heck do they go into detail, and there it is in all its glory. Now, I'm not sure if this is the original artwork for the ship that we saw in the gameplay reveal, this G85, whatever that translates as. I am keeping an eye open for Roman characters just to read what I can off here, but there's not much. I'm not sure if that is the exact ship that we saw decloak in the trailer, and it's changed minorly from the artwork, with the pagoda at the back, or if this is sort of a size up version of it, maybe the one we saw was a cruiser and this is like a battleship or battleship, something like that. I think more this is the artwork version of the ship itself, and it does look fantastic. I love that golden colour along the top against the sort of sheared metal, and that turquoisey glow to it all. And again, the pagoda and sort of building structures at the architecture at the back there just look so pretty. And it's pictures like that that remind me why I love Eve. And you can see in the top right of this image as well, we're just having a look at some of the different sort of buttresses and that are used on Asiatic architecture, and how those have inspired facets of the ship design as well. That's really cool. I love that one so much. Now, as we come down further, we start to see what is clearly either a frigate or a destroyer. If this is anything larger than a cruiser, I will eat my hat. I will buy a hat that's made of something tasty and then we'll eat it. Don't hold me to that. But these are some really interesting designs, and it reminds me a little bit of the Cruor. I'm not sure what to make of these, whether these are all going to be individual ships, or whether this is just different variations of the same ship and it was just like the artwork that they came up with. But again, that bottom middle one, the one that looks almost like a stiletto, and by stiletto I don't mean the slasher-based interceptor, I mean an actual stiletto high heel, is pretty cool. But I even like the curved ones on the left and the right. The top ones remind me a little bit of is it a Cruor I'm thinking of? But the one on the right and the bottom middle ones, I just really like the look of these. And here we see it more in colour, again with that gorgeous sort of coppery gold sheen to the top of it, interplaced with the other metals. And you can see here, this is kind of what they refer to, it's almost like a swatch chart. You've got the different materials and they're kind of showcasing those with that sort of dull down gunmetal as material 1, a sort of almost jaded, a sort of jadey sheen to the material 3, and material 2 being this sort of gold. Now it does say muzzle spaceship there. I'm not sure what that means. I don't think it's going to be called a Yanjong muzzle. I don't think that's the ship name. But I do think that's just a seriously cool looking design. We see a lot more of this. You can kind of see the bridge in the top right there, just under where it says muzzle spaceship. You can see what look to be like the windows out of the ship itself. This does appear to be a fairly sizable ship, but I would put that probably more at destroyer or cruiser than anything else. We come down again, now we see some what look to be early renders. Again, on the left is this curved muzzle ship thing that we've just been looking at, which to me I would suggest is destroyer. The sort of one in the middle is the one that looks a little bit like the pole arm that I was talking about in the other Yangjun video. That looks really cool. Again, I think that's probably going to be our cruiser or battle cruiser. And on the right hand side there is the one that we saw decloaking in the trailer. Really cool looking ship. That has to be a battle cruiser or battleship for the Yangjun. It just, I want it. I don't care what it does. I just want it. We get a couple more monochrome designs of the shoehorn before coming down to some really cool actual in-engine renders, and that just looks amazing. Seeing that gold sheen in space with that sort of silvery bottom to it as well. Darker colours there as seen from behind on the right. Again, you can see that in this bottom right image, you can actually see that sort of pagoda structure on the top and what I assume is the bridge of the ship, and the engines at the back there. It's just, I love it. I didn't think I would. If you told me that I'd like a ship that ultimately looks like a weird sort of shoehorn, I'd be telling you no. I'm not a big fan of, again, I'm sure it's the Cruor I'm thinking of. It's the really weird sort of bootlace curly one. This, to me, on paper, doesn't sound at all appealing, but seeing it in design, I adore it. Again, with the colour swatches and ideas here, you can see kind of where they were going with some of those designs. That pagoda, again, lit up a bit more here. Different background design. I love the kind of glowing effect that you see at the very front bottom of each of those ships. You can see the different colours. They've actually gone there on the colour palette where you find all of these. That's really, really cool. Now this actually gets really, really intense here. You can actually see they've done an interior of the ship itself, an elevator map, as they say here. Captain quarters, medical sector, crew quarters, storage sector, freight loading room, escape pod rooms, freight loading rooms. This appears to be a huge ship. Maybe I'm wrong about it being like a destroyer or something. Although I suppose, in fairness, if you go to modern navies, as in actually on the sea kind of navy, a destroyer is still pretty big and has a sizable crew. Just because we're a capsuleer? I don't know. I don't know, I'm really confused by this now. I never thought of our ships as having any form of crew. That means me losing a rifter suddenly feels a lot worse. You know, it's not just me piloting it, am I losing other people too? Or is this some other kind of ship and I'm just missing the point entirely? Now, it's really hard to see here. You can see like cutaway deck layout, there's bits of text here. I'm not sure what to make of this. I love the detail they've gone to, but it's more than I thought from Eve. Maybe I'm missing something here, and you can see kind of a render there of the cutaways, and then this starts getting intense. As an idea, that appears to be the engines right there. Which you can see how big a ship's engines are in comparison to a human, or a Yang human, I would assume. You can see how big those engines are, sort of the approximate layout of them. Of course, I have no idea what any of that means. I'm not an interstellar engineer, not officially, you know, I may have the skill points for it, but I just love how that looks. That sort of back there, and the way that engine looks, again, it's just really cool. You can see how it pokes out the back of the ship. Along now into actual deck designs, and you can see you've got that kind of dog statue at the far end, the dog dragon statues, along with the traditional Oriental Chinese lamps down the pathways as well, with pillars there. They're really leaning heavily into the Oriental theme, which I suppose is to be expected, and I just do love the look of it. You can see there the statues almost, that looks like the woman from the actual, in the I Am Yang. Looks really cool, and I love the detailing on the wall and or door, whatever it is at the background there behind the statue. It might actually be part of the statue. That's just utterly beautiful. And then they have it in colour, because of course they do. And you can see that sphere that they were looking at in the trailer as well, and sort of analysing what's going on in the other ships. You can start to see some of those colours coming in, and those real heavy Oriental designs. There's almost some actual Indian subcontinent designs there on the back wall as well. Reminds me of some of the stuff you see on the Taj Mahal. Very, very pretty, and it just keeps going and getting prettier. You can see now that there are numerous people inside this room. You've got the ship's bridge at the top there, with people sort of having a look through it. That golden sphere is just awesome. Does that have some kind of function, or is that just a shrine that's aboard the ship or something? I have no idea. If you can read Chinese, let me know what I'm looking at here. And just, again, more of the same, panned out a bit further just to get a bit more scale of what's going on there. A look at the bridge with what appears to be the navigation sphere, a couple of smaller images that just show people walking around the interiors of this ship. And then a full-on look at everything. So again, you can see this now as the layout here, looking into the ship, looking into what we've seen before there with the bridge and the that sort of golden sphere, coming down to the front with more of the lower level decks like engineering and all of that as well, just to get an idea of what it is inside the ship. Also cool to see that we can get the actual logo properly here for the Yang. Confirmed, it does appear that the Yang is that bell symbol that we saw. So that'll be a useful, just nice to know that that is definitely the logo for the Yang. And also notice as well at the top right, the moon waxes and the moon wanes. Nice little reference. Now, nothing I can do can get this GIF to load. I've tried this in numerous different browsers. I've tried this on my wife's absolutely terrible laptop, and it just doesn't seem to load. So I'm going to put the link to this article, obviously, in the description down below, so you can let me know what that GIF is. And actually have a look through it. If you, as I said, if you do read Chinese, 100% please have a look through. Let me know what you think of all of this. If I've missed out anything really, really obvious. To me, these are just some super cool ship designs, and I cannot wait to see more. I'm hoping that if I get into the final test, we will see a bit of the Yang, and I'll be able to showcase some of that in actual New Eden gameplay. Anyway, folks, thank you ever so much for watching through all of this. This is just me nerding out about some really cool looking spaceships coming to Eve Echoes. I can't wait to get my hands on these. I don't even care what their abilities are. I'm just super excited to fly something that looks this awesome. Again, thank you for watching all this way. If you do have the opportunity, please do click that referral link. Give Brave a download and a try. It would seriously help me out if you could do so. Otherwise, let me know your thoughts and opinions on these ships in the comment section down below, or by coming and finding me on social media. Happy sailing, folks, and see you in New Eden!